Good morning everyone, I'm Kat Sheridan and I'm part of your L&P team here at Capitol Theatres. I'm coming to you today from my home to teach you how to make salt dough hedgehogs for our We Creative session this week. Now why am I teaching you how to make salt dough hedgehogs? Well, number one, hedgehogs are extremely cute. And number two, this week is Pancake Day. Now that is honestly one of my favorite holidays across the whole year. Universally love pancakes. They are delicious. But if you don't celebrate Pancake Day, it's still a brilliant opportunity to get into the kitchen, get your hands on some flour, make a bit of a mess, and make something from scratch. So marrying those two things together, of course, hedgehogs, salt dough hedgehogs, it makes perfect sense. Today, we're gonna need a couple of things to make our salt dough. And actually, once you know this recipe, you can use it to make Christmas ornaments. You can use it to make any kind of animal or sculpture that you like. Because the great thing about salt dough is that whether or not you bake it in the oven for 3 hours on a low heat, or you leave it over 3 days to air dry, it will go really hard. And then you can keep it for as long as you look after it. Honestly, 2, 3, 4 years. I'm fairly sure my mum still has salt dough ornaments that I made when I was very, very little. She's better at looking after things than me. So what are you gonna need to make these hedgehogs? Well, first things first, you're gonna need plain flour, not self-raising, and it needs to just be plain, white, ordinary flour. I know that pretty much everywhere ran out of it at the start of lockdown, but I think that's trailed off a bit now, so you should be able to get your hands on some. The cheaper the better, because we just want it to go hard. You're then going to need some salt, just table salt, a little bit of water, a mixing bowl, a big wooden spoon to mix it all round in, some baking parchment or just a clean dry surface to make a mess on, a big black marker because we're going to make little hedgehog nose, some googly eyes if you've got them, if not you can draw them on with the marker, and key to all of this, some twigs and or leaves. I say twigs are better, and this is actually a little bit of my Christmas tree that's still out in the garden. We're trying to make it grow. So I snipped a few bits off, but any twigs or leaves that you picked up on your walk will make the perfect spikes for our hedgehog. So how do we make salt dough, you ask? It's a very simple ratio. 2, 1, 1. 2 parts flour to 1 part water and 1 part salt. Now I am only using a little measurement this time because I only want a little bit of dough for my hedgehogs. They're tiny and cute and hibernating. So this is half a cup of flour, which I'm going to pair with a 1/4 cup of salt and a 1/4 cup of water. So 2, 1, and 1. And the first thing you're going to do is just pour all of your ingredients into the bowl. Whichever mixing bowl you've chosen, get it all mixed up in there. Once you've given this a big stir and it starts to become all kind of sticky and stiff, then you know your dough is ready to take out. Before you put this on the surface, take a little bit more of your flour and sprinkle it like snow all over where you're working. This is going to help make sure that the dough doesn't stick. Now we're going to start to work and shape this dough. Now as you can see, it's not too sticky, it's not sticking to all of my hands. And when I'm working it, I can feel that it's coming together kind of like plasticine. So we're going to put it on our surface here and just coat it a little bit in the extra flour. Remember, if your dough is too runny, you can always add a little bit of extra flour, or if it's too stiff, you can add a bit of water so you get the right consistency. Now, I think I could make a whole family of hedgehogs with this amount. I'm just going to snap a little bit off, roll it round in my hands, and start to make the body of the hedgehog. Can you see what I'm doing there? Just rolling it in my palms and shaping it. And once you have your little hedgehog ball, you're going to start pinching and creating a little head. So what I'm doing is just shaping the dough so that I end up with a bit of a face and a body and a little sniffly nose. Now, how does that turn into a hedgehog, you ask? Well, the next thing we're going to need are some hedgehog spikes. To make our hedgehog spikes, I'm just going to take little bits of branches and twigs and pop them into the body of our salt dough hedgehogs. Now, you might want to grab a pair of safety scissors to do this because our hedgehogs are quite wee, perfect for wee creatives, but it means that you don't want twigs that are too long or they might look a little bit more like a porcupine compared to a hedgehog. Bear in mind that you can also trim your hedgehog once all of the twigs and leaves are in. That they're not finished until you are happy. Okay, so our hedgehog has had a little bit of a trim, a little bit of a prune. I think that they're looking beautiful. And remember, at this point, if you are going to go ahead and bake your salt dough, you need to take out all of the twigs and leaves that you've popped in. Can you see there's a hole left behind? So you take all of these out and pop it into the oven on a very low heat, sort of 80 degrees for 2 to 3 hours, and it will dry out. And then you can pop all your twigs back in. But if, like me, you're going to make your hedgehog and leave it on the windowsill for 2 to 3 days, then you can carry on from here. Now you might be thinking, Kat, that looks a little like a bit of dough with some twigs in it. I can't see the hedgehog. What are you talking about? Well, the key to bringing any kind of salt dough creation to life when you're making an animal or a human or anything else is a pair of eyes. So I'm going to pop my googly eyes, look, onto my hedgehog. Hello! I think I'm going to call my hedgehog Henrietta. That feels like the correct name for her. There we go. She's got a gender now too. Look, it's Henrietta with her eyes. And I've just popped them directly into the dough because it's soft enough and pliable enough to hold those there. If you're worried about them coming off, you can do a tiny little bit of glue on the back, but honestly, it's not necessarily needed. And then the last thing I'm going to do is paint my little hedgehog nose black with a marker pen. And this is very delicate because the dough is still soft. But here you can see that Henrietta is coming to life. You have your very own salt dough hedgehog. Now Henrietta is still a little bit soft. She needs to sit on a windowsill or in a warm airing cupboard for about 2 to 3 days, and she will go fully solid and you will be able to keep her for as long as you want. You can make a whole family of hedgehogs if you fancy it. Thank you very much for watching, and come back next week for another video and creative idea to do with your wee creatives. Thank you.